Do you believe you're in control of your life? What if I told you that 90% of what you do, decide, and feel isn't your choice? The truth is, your unconscious mind has been driving your behaviors, your reactions, and even your failures, without you realizing it. And the scariest part, it might know exactly how to keep you from succeeding every single day. In this video, you'll understand how invisible mental patterns, limiting beliefs, and automatic habits are steering your life, and more. I'll show you how to start reprogramming your mind to finally make conscious decisions and change your destiny. Stay with me until the end, because perhaps the biggest sabotage in your life doesn't come from the world, but from yourself. You often think you're deciding on your own, that each choice stems from your logical reasoning, willpower, and intelligence. But what if I told you that this is an illusion carefully crafted by your own mind to keep you comfortable and trapped? Most of your daily behaviors, how you wake up, what you eat, how you react to criticism, how you treat people, how you spend your money, what you avoid, what you fear, even how you see yourself, is being guided by unconscious patterns, internal scripts that were installed since childhood and that you likely have never revisited. And the most dangerous part, they weren't chosen by you. Your unconscious mind is like a highly efficient autopilot. Over the years, it has learned to interpret the world based on repetitions, traumas, rewards, and punishments. It doesn't think, it just repeats. And what it repeats defines your life. If you have a pattern of self-sabotage in relationships, at work, or in self-esteem, you can be sure this isn't bad luck, and certainly not coincidence. It's programming. Maybe you want to grow professionally, but you always put it off. You always freeze up. Maybe you want a healthy relationship, but you end up getting involved with people who hurt you. Maybe you dream of changing your life, but every time you get close, something inside you pulls the brakes. And then you blame yourself. You judge yourself. You think you're weak or that you lack focus. But the truth is deeper. You are being controlled by a mind that you do not control. Neuroscience has already proven that most of our behavior is automatic. Our brain creates neural pathways to save energy, and it loves to repeat them. It craves what is familiar, even if it is painful. That's why change is so difficult. That's why growth hurts. Because stepping out of the norm requires creating new mental pathways, and that scares the part of your mind that just wants to keep you safe. But what it calls safety might actually be destroying your opportunities, your relationships, and your inner peace. You can spend your whole life wanting something, deeply wishing for a new reality, and still act like the same person you've always been. And it's not because you don't want to change, it's because deep down, your unconscious won't allow it. It has been trained to keep you exactly where you are, and every attempt to break away from this will be treated as a threat. That's why you feel afraid when you try to grow. That's why anxiety appears when you approach something new. That's why you give up when things start to go right. This resistance does not come from your essence. It comes from your programming. And until you bring light to what is hidden, you will continue to be sabotaged by your own thoughts, your own emotions, and the habits you didn't choose, but that now define you. The good news is, there is a way out, and it starts with awareness. The first step to freeing your unconscious mind is recognizing that it is in control. It's accepting that you often act without knowing why, and that's okay. We all do it. The problem is continuing to live on autopilot thinking you are awake. Self-awareness is the process of observing your own patterns without judgment, but with firmness. It's when you realize that you're repeating the same kind of thoughts, that you're reacting in the same way, that you're attracting the same results. And instead of blaming yourself, you choose to understand, why am I so afraid to speak my mind? Why do I sabotage myself when something starts to go right? Why do I always get involved with people who don't value me? These questions are not simple. They hurt, but they are the ones that begin to pull at the loose threads of the unconscious. When you question yourself with honesty, something inside you begins to awaken. It's like your mind is saying, wait, someone is paying attention here, and that's when change becomes possible. Because what is in the shadows cannot be transformed, but that which is brought to light begins to lose its power. When you observe a mental pattern without identifying with it, you start to make space for new possibilities. And this is what we call mental reprogramming. It's not about erasing what you've lived, it's about redefining. It's looking at fear and saying, I see you, but you are not me. It's looking at trauma and saying, you hurt me, but you don't define me. It's looking at the past and saying, thank you for bringing me here, but now I will take a different path. You don't have to continue living as a prisoner of your unconscious mind. It is not your enemy, but it needs to be led. It needs to be guided by an awake, strong, attentive consciousness. And that consciousness is you. When you understand that you can choose what you think, what you feel, what you repeat, you take command. And that is true power. You can start today. You don't need to change everything. but you need to begin observing. Every time a negative thought arises, question it. Every time an automatic habit appears, take a deep breath. Every time fear tries to paralyze you, remember, this is just my unconscious mind trying to protect me from something that no longer exists. You are in 2025. You have already grown. You have already survived. Now, it's time to truly live. And if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is already awakening. Something is tired of repeating. Something wants freedom. So listen to that something. Honor that impulse. Because perhaps your greatest success lies just behind the wall that your unconscious mind has built. And now, you have the key. Now that you understand that your unconscious mind is operating behind the scenes, influencing your reactions, your choices, and even your silence, the most important moment has arrived: reprogramming. And this doesn't happen by chance. It doesn't happen with ready-made phrases or empty positive thinking. True reprogramming requires presence. It requires active awareness. It requires you to face yourself with courage. The first technique you can use is simple but extremely powerful: observation without judgment. The next time you feel a strong emotion, anger, sadness, anxiety, or that urge to give up, instead of acting automatically, stop, breathe, observe. Tell yourself, this is just a pattern manifesting. Just that awareness already begins to weaken the power of automatic behavior. The unconscious mind loses its power when it is observed with attention. The second practice is conscious internal dialogue. This means replacing destructive thoughts with truthful statements. When your mind says, "You'll never make it," you respond, "That's a memory, not a sentence." When the old thought comes up, "No one cares about me," say, "My worth doesn't depend on others' validation." It may feel artificial at first, but repeating these conscious affirmations gradually rebuilds your identity. Each statement is a seed planted toward a new self. The third technique is to revisit your daily decisions. The unconscious mind loves routine, so if you want real change, you need to deliberately alter small patterns. For example, if you take a shower automatically every day, eat on autopilot, drive without thinking, try doing one of these actions with full attention. Feel the water, the food, the steering wheel. It may seem insignificant, but these micro-practices activate areas of the brain related to conscious decision-making. You are teaching your brain to be present again. Another essential tool is conscious visualization with feeling. The unconscious mind doesn't distinguish between reality and imagination. It reacts to mental images with the same chemical connections as a real event. So, if every day you visualize yourself failing, being rejected, being ignored, guess what your mind is preparing to experience? The same drama, over and over again. But if you close your eyes and vividly and emotionally imagine the life you desire, success, freedom, peace, healthy relationships, your mind starts working toward that. And the most amazing part, this changes your behavior in the real world. Sure, you're going to face resistance. The unconscious mind doesn't want you to change. It prefers the familiar, even if it's destructive. So expect relapses. Expect that old self trying to come back. And when that happens, don't blame yourself. Just acknowledge, this is just an echo of the old program. I'm not that anymore. And move on. Consistency is more important than intensity. Another important step in this process is emotional cleansing. There are emotions built up inside you that have never been fully felt. They fuel unconscious repetition, the fear of not being loved, the guilt of having failed, the shame of not being enough. You don't need to fight against these feelings. You need to embrace them. You need to feel them fully, without escape. When you feel an emotion all the way through without trying to change it or run away, it dissolves. And with it, part of the weight that held you down goes away. And finally comes the most powerful of all, the conscious choice of a new pattern. It's not enough to eliminate the old. You need to create something new in its place. And that new thing begins with small daily decisions. Waking up earlier, eating better, saying no when you need to, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, facing fear instead of backing away. Each new action, repeated with intention, creates a new mental pathway, and a new mental pathway creates a new you. You don't need to change everything today, but you need to do something today that breaks the cycle, a different thought, a new response, a gesture that contradicts the old you. Transformation isn't an event. It's a quiet process. It's like teaching a stubborn child to trust. Yes, you will stumble. Yes, you will doubt. But little by little, that part inside you that has been stuck on autopilot starts to believe that there is another way to live. And it exists. There is a way to live with lightness, with direction, with freedom. There is a version of you that knows how to choose clearly, that acts with purpose, that is not guided by trauma or pain. This version already exists within you. It's just buried under layers and layers of unconscious repetitions. And with each new act of awareness, you dig deeper. You get closer to your essence. The unconscious mind may have guided you up to this point, but now you are the one taking the wheel. And even if there are still shadows along the way, your light is growing with every breath, with every choice, with every awakening. You might be wondering, what if this is true? What if I am really living based on something I didn't choose? What if all this pain, this stagnation, this recurring anxiety isn't my fault, but rather reflections of a mind conditioned to protect me from things that no longer exist? This thought, this silent doubt, is already a sign of awakening, because before, you didn't even notice. You thought it was just bad luck, just part of your personality, just who you were, but not anymore. Now you are facing it head on, and this is the turning point, when unconsciousness meets the light of awareness. It's in this moment that real change begins to take shape, not as a sudden explosion, but as a living process. Slow, sometimes painful, but absolutely liberating. You won't reprogram your mind in a day. That's important to say. What has been repeated for years, for decades, doesn't disappear with a nice phrase or a New Year's intention. Reprogramming is like rebuilding a house from the inside while still living in it. It means facing the chaos without running away, coexisting with the wreckage, choosing new bricks and continuing even when everything in you screams to give up. Yes, it's going to hurt. It's going to be exhausting. The old version of you is going to try to come back. It will say it's easier to stay quiet, to hide, to do everything the way you've always done. It will attempt to convince you that it's not worth the effort, that it won't make a difference. But now you know, that voice isn't yours. It comes from the part of your mind that is afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid of the unknown, afraid of growing and not knowing who you are. And it's okay to feel that. Fear is part of the journey. It just can't be your master anymore. What brought you here was courage. The courage to question what always seemed true. The courage to doubt the programming. The courage to pause in the middle of chaos and say, enough, I want more. I deserve more. I am more. And that changes everything. Because real change begins with a silent, internal, almost invisible decision, but that carries within it a shout from the soul. Freedom. Freedom to think without repeating, to feel without destroying yourself, to choose without sabotaging yourself. Freedom to be who you haven't even met yet, but know exists inside you. This freedom won't be given to you by anyone. You will need to reclaim it, one day at a time, one thought at a time, one pattern broken at a time. And even if it feels small, every step is a victory over years of repetition. You will be surprised by how much you still carry within you. Strength, sensitivity, wisdom, presence, all of that is already there. It doesn't need to be created, just remembered. Mental reprogramming is in fact a return, a reunion with the purest, most free part of you, the one that existed before fear, before shame, before labels, before trauma. It is still alive, and now you are closer to it than ever. Maybe the people around you don't understand. They might say you're exaggerating, that it's all in your head, but you will know. You will feel in your body that something has changed. You will realize that the trigger that used to make you explode now just makes you breathe, that the person who once emotionally dominated you now no longer has the same effect, that the environment that used to paralyze you is now just any space. You will see, you will feel, and you will feel proud. And then, something even deeper happens. You begin to attract new experiences, different people. Paths that once seemed closed begin to open, because the external world starts to reflect your internal transformation. Everything changes when you change, and this change is silent but irreversible. Because once you wake up, you can no longer sleep the same sleep. This is your calling. The call to break free from the invisible prison that your mind has built and start living with intention. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be 100% ready. You just need to take the next step. A small, conscious step has more power than 1,000 automatic actions. And that step is now, in this moment, because there's only one real time for transformation, the present. You cannot change the past, but you can change your relationship with it. You can change the weight it has on you. You can choose to free yourself from old stories and write a new narrative, a narrative where you are not a victim of your own thoughts, but the author of your own consciousness. A narrative where success is not just a dream, but a reflection of your healed mind. A narrative where you finally allow yourself to win without guilt. And winning, here, is not about beating anyone. It's about conquering yourself, your wounded, self-sabotaging, dormant version. It's waking up every day with the certainty that you are building, through small gestures, your greatest version, the most conscious, the most present, the most free. Not because everything around you has changed, but because you have changed. And when you change, everything changes. Life takes on new colors, time slows down, decisions become lighter, fears still exist, but they no longer control you. Anxiety still shows up, but it doesn't shout as loud anymore. The past still lives within you, but it doesn't define your next steps anymore. And that, my friend, is success. Real success. Success from the inside out. Success that can't be measured by numbers but by peace. You're ready. Not because you're 100% healed, but because you've decided to start, and that's all you need. The unconscious mind may have sabotaged you for years, but now you have awareness. And where there is awareness, there is power. If you felt something during this video, if any part of it resonated with you in a genuine way, then don't let it fade away. Comment below, "I'm waking up." Write it. Not just for me, but for yourself. Because written words hold power. They seal your commitment. Share this video with someone you love who also deserves to break free from the automatic state. Save this video to watch again when doubt returns. And it will return. Because the old mind doesn't give up easily, but you won't give up either. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Here, each video is a step, a reminder, a living reprogramming. And remember, you're not alone. Thousands of people are waking up alongside you. And the more awareness we spread, the more freedom we create, both within and outside. Life won't wait for you to be ready, but it will walk alongside you from the moment you choose to live consciously. So take a deep breath, look inward, and take your first step. The next level of your life begins when you stop operating on autopilot, and you've already started.